What's up, Alabama fans? It's Andrew Bone with BamaInsider.com. Happy Friday to you. Hope you're all staying safe. Continue to support your local businesses, restaurants, bars, wherever you may, wherever you like to go. Please continue to support those people because they need it now more than ever, including Slice Pizza. Shout out to my buddies Jeff, Jason, and Chris. Go support them if you're in Birmingham. Go get you a pizza, some wings, salad. They got it all. So go support those guys. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is if you guys were following along last week, I was breaking down my top 5-star players in the Nick Saban era. Just my top 10. We went with the offensive guys first. Then we broke down the defensive guys. So, guys like Julio Jones and, Mark, I'm about to say Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, those type of guys that were on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, Minka Fitzpatrick, Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, those type of guys. So today, because there's so many guys that Alabama has recruited that are highly rated over the last several years, really since 2007, since Nick Saban arrived in Tuscaloosa. There's just been countless 5 stars, 4 stars, Rivals 100 type players. So instead of just going from 5 stars to 4 stars, I'm going to talk about the best Rivals 100 players that were not rated as 5 stars, guys that probably should have been 5 stars. I guess you take a chance on some guys. You make them 5 stars. Sometimes you regret not making them 5 stars. Guess what? I didn't have anything to do with some of these guys. So don't get mad at me. But we're talking about the guys who are rated in the Rivals 100 who were not 5 stars during the Nick Saban era. So I want to give you my top 10, guys who had just unbelievable high school careers, college careers, and then I encourage you to, comment below, tell me what you think, tell me who I got wrong, tell me who your top 10 is, and we'll go from there. There was just so many Rivals 100 players that Alabama recruited, and I guess not just recruited but signed. Played it, were big time players in Tuscaloosa, and there's a lot of guys that, unfortunately, I had to leave off this top 10 list. I mean, you got Sean Dion Hamilton, DeAndrew White, Ardarius Stewart. Those were some of the Robert Foster. Those were some of the guys that that were highly rated. Had good careers, but had to really narrow it down to a top 10, and that was extremely tough. So, number 10 on my list. The guy in the 2012 recruiting class, Ryan Anderson. Ryan was a spectacular high school football player. A lot of personality. Loved to talk. I talked to Ryan throughout that entire year, and not because of his commitment or his recruitment. We were really talking about T.J. Yeldon. He was always telling me, "Hey, T.J.'s going to flip to Alabama. I guarantee it." And you didn't know whether to believe him or not because TJ kept saying he was solid with his commitment to Auburn, but obviously his friendship with Ryan played a big part in his flip to Alabama down the road. But Ryan was wasn't as highly recruited as TJ was in the beginning. He picked up some early offers. I remember he ended up going to an Alabama Junior Day, and I think it was at Junior Day when he first got that offer from Alabama. Jeremy Pruitt recruited him, and I'm pretty positive, from talking to different sources. I'm not going to rat them out who they were, but Ryan ended up going to Alabama's Junior Day. And I think he had a couple, 5 or 10 pound weights that were in his pockets when he went and got weighed because he wanted to make sure that Alabama took notice of his size. And obviously it worked out. You don't always want to do that kind of stuff, but it worked out for Ryan. And obviously he had a tremendous career at Alabama and now with the Washington Redskins. Number 9 on my list was Xavier McKinney. He was in the 2017 class. Big time player coming out of high school, gave an early commitment to Alabama, and he was one of those few guys that when he decommitted, you just didn't think he was going to come back. He was it was pretty much a done deal that he was going to go somewhere else. And back then, I say back then, it was 3 years ago, but you just never really saw kids reopen their recruitment, decommit, and then go back to the school that they originally committed to. So, it was kind of a surprise when he did decommit, and everyone thought he was going to Clemson. That was, everybody was betting on Clemson there. I think even Alabama was betting on him going to Clemson, but he ends up coming back to Alabama, and obviously had a great career, had a great senior, great season this past season, and looks like he's probably going to be a first-round draft pick this year. All right, continuing to move on. Number 8 on my list, the guy who's going to be returning for his senior season this upcoming year, Devontae Smith. Smitty. Obviously, everybody remembers his touchdown catch as a freshman, against Georgia in the national championship game, and he's just been a brilliant football player ever since then. I mean, obviously, he had an unbelievable junior season this past year. Probably could have come out and potentially been a first-round NFL draft pick. The biggest thing about Smitty and going through his whole recruiting process was he originally committed to Georgia. I don't know if many people remember that. He committed to Georgia before his junior season in high school. Mark Richt ends up, leaving Georgia, and he reopened his recruitment. So, once he reopened his recruitment after Mark Richt left, Georgia, I don't know, I can't remember if they really, went after him. I believe they did, but everybody kind of just thought that he was going to Alabama once he reopened his recruitment. Sam Petito has been at Alabama, who joined Alabama's staff. Was at Georgia, from Louisiana, from the same area as Smitty. I think he played a big role in that, and they had that relationship for a long time, so that played a big role. Smitty actually waited all the way until signing day to announce, even though everybody just assumed he was going to Alabama, took it all the way down to the end, and Alabama was able to get him. It's going to be exciting to see him this year, see what he can do. Obviously, Alabama's losing, two of its, biggest offensive weapons. Three if you count Tua, but at least on the outside with Ruggs and Judy, it's going to be the Devontae Smith show once again. And obviously, there's other talent there that's going to have some opportunities for some big seasons like Jalen Waddle, but I definitely think that Smitty's got going to have a humongous season, and I think everybody's really excited to see what he can do. And I think he's got a chance to, really, ever since that touchdown catch, against Georgia, 4-year career at Alabama, can he go down as one of the best receivers ever? I think he can. All right, moving on. What number are we now? Number 7? Number 7. So in the 2008 recruiting class, Barrett Jones. It's hard to say he's number 7 because, you think he would be a lot higher, but there's so many really good football players. Barrett, obviously, his recruitment was interesting because everyone just assumed he was going to Alabama because he grew up an Alabama fan. His parents both went to Alabama, or his dad went to Alabama. His mom did not go to Alabama. His dad went to Alabama, played basketball, Rex Jones, and his recruitment kind of started early. Tommy Tuberville at Auburn, first coach to offer him a scholarship. I think it was the summer right after his sophomore year of high school, and then all the offers started coming in. Alabama got on him kind of late, but that was okay. Nick Saban came in and started recruiting him very heavily, and then he started taking his visits. I think it ended up coming down to Alabama, Florida, even North Carolina. He really liked Sam Pittman at North Carolina. Sam Pittman, who's now the Arkansas head coach, was offensive line coach at Georgia the last few seasons. He was actually the offensive line coach at North Carolina during Barrett Jones' recruitment, and Barrett had developed a very good relationship with him throughout his recruiting process, and also had a very good relationship with Steve Adazio down at Florida. So in the end, I think he saw kind of what was coming at Alabama. I mean, what an unbelievable recruiting class. He was a part of that 2008 class, that #1 recruiting class. Saban's first Saban's first full recruiting class. What a special class, and he was part of it. And obviously, had tremendous accolades throughout his college career. Two-time All-American. I know he was a freshman All-American as well. The Remington Award, the Outland Trophy Award. Certainly one of the best offensive linemen in the history of Alabama. All right, so who is number 6? Number 6 on my list, also in the 2008 recruiting class, Mark Barron. Mark Bama, obviously a special talent at the safety position for Alabama. Has gone on to the NFL and been a linebacker throughout most of his career in the NFL. But man, as a safety at Alabama, I mean, he was one of the best leaders, best tacklers that we've seen. I think there's probably a lot of people who would have him even higher on the list. I mean, he was just that good. During his career in Tuscaloosa, recruitment wasn't too crazy. What I remember most about kind of his recruitment is he committed. I think he committed in August before his senior season. Ends up having a tremendous senior season. Decided to take some visits after the season. Visited LSU, Auburn, but in the end stuck with the Tide. He had a couple other teammates that were actually also signed with Alabama that year. Wide receiver Destin Hood and running back Ivan Matchett. Both those guys ended up signing with Alabama. Destin ended up deciding to go the baseball route, whereas Ivan Matchett, I think, I know this was 12 years ago. I think Ivan stayed for maybe a year. Could have left before then, but I can't remember exactly how long. But Mark Barron, like I said, number 6 on my list of top 100 players at Alabama, and the guys that were in the Rivals 100, not necessarily 5-star recruits, but they were in between. I guess maybe number 35 to 100 in the Rivals 100. So these are the guys that we're talking about right now. The guys who are in the Rivals 100 in their high school career, not 5 stars, but these guys are the best Rivals 100 type guys during the Saban era, in my opinion. All right, moving on. Number 5, C.J. Mosley in that 2010 recruiting class. Kind of took it down kind of far. I mean, I think he was an Alabama guy throughout the entire process. Really liked Auburn a lot. There was a lot of people who thought maybe he was going to end up going to Auburn, but ends up going to Alabama. He also really liked LSU a lot. But Alabama able to win his commitment in 2010. Like I said, he took it all the way down. I think he decided around December. But everybody just always assumed that's where he was going to go. Took several visits to Alabama throughout that whole recruiting process. Visited there just twice as many times as anywhere else. And we all know how his college career went. We were all worried when he suffered that horrific injury, that hip injury against LSU in the national championship game. But he was able to bounce back, have a tremendous career, and obviously as a tremendous NFL player, and hopefully he'll have a big season with the New York Jets this year after missing most of the season last year with an injury. All right, we're getting down to the nitty gritty once again, and these were tough. I mean, these really were. I mean, these 4 guys, you could almost put any of them, where you want to, but Amari Cooper, he's number 4 on my list in the top 100 guys that weren't rated as 5 stars in that 2012 recruiting class. I think the biggest thing I remember about Amari Cooper and his recruitment is I didn't really know who he was before he attended camp at Alabama during his, right before his senior season. I remember getting a phone call from a certain NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver who was coaching at the camp that weekend, who called me up and he said, Andrew, he has this guy Amari Cooper, you know his name. He's going to be starting at Alabama next year as a true freshman, I promise you. And I said, does he even have an offer? He's like, well, no, not yet. He does not have an offer just yet, but he's going to get one. He's going to end up committing to Alabama. He's going to be one of the best receivers to ever play at Alabama. Of course, I'm thinking that's a little far-fetched. I have not really heard of this guy before. I looked him up, a four-star receiver from Miami. Had a lot of offers, but didn't have an Alabama offer at the time, and ends up getting that Alabama offer, commits, a couple of, it was a couple months later. It was like really early into his senior season now. Miami was all over him. They kept recruiting him, tried to flip him. He actually took a visit to Miami, I think, one of the final weekends in December, before he enrolled early. And, they were close. They were really close to flipping him, but he ends up staying with Alabama and obviously started, had one amazing career in Tuscaloosa. Obviously just got paid by the Dallas Cowboys. I think it was 5 years, $100 million. And guess what? He's not a turd. Not at all. I'm sure many of you saw what Rex Ryan said. What a joke. Just calling somebody a turd. You may not agree with what he's getting paid, but saying a kid is a turd is a pretty big slap in the face for somebody that can't get a head coaching job in the NFL. So he probably needs to remember that. All right, number 3 on my list. Now this is tough because I could easily have this guy number 1, Rolando McClain in the 2007 recruiting class. Nick Saban's was on the staff for about a month, able to hold on to Rolando. Rolando was an Alabama fan, all throughout life. I mean, that's where he was always going to go. You kind of thought maybe he would look elsewhere because of the coaching turnover, but obviously Nick Saban was able to hold him on board. And it's funny. I look back at an interview with Rolando from, I think it was December or January of his senior season in high school, and they asked, somebody asked him. They said, what do you think about your commitment to Alabama and your plans once you get there? And he said, my plan is to be an All-American, one of the best linebackers ever to play at Alabama. And he certainly was. I talked to who was it? Trent Richardson the other day. Asked him who did he think was the best player that he played with during his time at Alabama. And he named 2 guys. He named Julio, who was our number 1 guy in the 5-star range, and then he named Rolando McClain. I think he basically said Rolando overall was just, he was just a bad dude in terms of his play on the field, his leadership. I mean, he was a leader and just aggressive football player from day one when he stepped on the field. And Alabama fans will, the ones who remember watching him play, I mean, I think everybody will say he was probably, he's right up there with the best linebackers that have ever played at Alabama. There's no doubt about it. All right, final 2. And this was, like I said, it got tough. And I have Tua at number 2 in the 2017 class. And once again, these are guys who are rated, wherever they were rated on Rivals.com, not necessarily looking at any other sites where they rated kids or anything like that. Sure, Rivals may have gotten some wrong, but doesn't matter. We're just talking about where kids were rated. My opinion of where they fall in line in Alabama history. So, Rivals 100 guys that were not 5 stars. My number 2 guy, Tua. Tua in that 2017 recruiting class. Alabama was really able to luck up and get a big commitment from him. After Jake Fromm ends up decommitting from Alabama, flipping to Georgia since Kirby Smart left, and obviously we all know about Tua's career in Tuscaloosa. His magical performance in the national championship game against Georgia as a true freshman. He ends up visiting Alabama during the spring. of his senior year in high school. He'd been a USC guy kind of growing up, and liked Oregon a little bit, but his family fell in love with Alabama, fell in love with the community. Just fell in love with everything, and the whole family ends up moving to Alabama, and they'll forever be etched in Alabama football history. And then number one on my list was King Henry, Derrick Henry, 2013 recruiting class. People may not remember this, but Derrick was actually committed to Georgia during his junior season in high school. And Derrick's committed to Georgia. Says that that I remember at one point when he was still committed to Georgia, he said, "Yeah, I feel like Alabama is a better fit for me." And I was like, "Well, yeah, it might be time for him to flip." Once I saw that interview, I can't remember who wrote the interview, but he said Alabama was a better fit for me than Georgia, and he was committed to Georgia at the time. So he kind of knew that things were going south. He was going to end up flipping at some point, and obviously he had a unbelievable career at Alabama. Alabama's second Heisman Trophy winner. Unbelievable NFL career. Had all those big rushing yards throughout high school. It was 300, 400 yards here and there. Broke the national high school rushing record, and he is the king. King Henry should have been a 5-star recruit. Obviously, he was right there. Right on the cusp. And I think a lot of people were just unsure if he was really going to be a running back or a linebacker at the next level. And you just didn't see many guys like his size. He's bigger than most linebackers in the NFL now. So it's hard to choose. But anyway, those were my top 10 guys. Rivals 100 players in the Nick Saban era that were not 5 stars. Go through them once again. Number 10, I had Ryan Anderson. Number 9, Xavier McKinney. Number 8, Devontae Smith. Number 7, Barrett Jones. Number 6, we had Mark Barron. Number 5, C.J. Mosley. Number 4, Amari Cooper. Number 3, Rolando McClain. Number 2, Tua. Number 1, Derrick Henry. Let me know what you think. This isn't this is opinion. This isn't fact. Love to hear what you got to say. Next week we'll look at 4 stars on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. Encourage you to jump on the BamaInsider.com board. Got a lot of great stories up right now. Tony Sukalich just put up a great story with Bryce Young's father, Craig, about what all he's doing right now, training. Kind of cool seeing that Bryce Young is training with guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and some other guys, Derwin James, some guys from the Los Angeles Chargers. So kind of cool seeing that. And then jump on the message board. We've got a great community over there. Continue to support your local businesses. You guys stay safe out there. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up with you next time. Thanks again. Bye.